uh, it was looking like a very American film, and we spoke with Susie Spindler from Cup of Excellence, and she said, if you are trying to do a real movie about coffee, you have to make it a world story or stop shooting right now, like literally stop shooting. And that was like a big jolt, because obviously you think of money and the other things that come with it, but she took us to Honduras. I mean, she facilitated a Cup of Excellence, and Italy happened. And once it picked up momentum, then everybody was just jumping on board. So I think it was an eye opener for us at that point, and that's what actually gives the movie its width. I mean, if you take up, if we would not have shot it abroad, the movie would be about the specialty coffee industry in America. I think those would be the remains of the shoot, but because we traveled and we got the other parts, that's how we could show the story moving, where coffee is moving from place A to place B to C, it's moving it forward.
So I'll jump in here with the next question. So Amy made the comment, just how horizontal the film was, caffeinated, but there was one comment, I think it came from Michael Phillips, kind of midway through the film, where he was talking about coffee shops and how they're very local, and how rather than the coffee shops make the cities make the coffee shops. And so it made me think of all the cities that you went to and featured in the film. For you guys, was there one city, not just a cafe, but is there one city that was really inspiring to you, or felt like gave you a story about coffee that you didn't have before? What stood out to you?
I think, for me, I think home, which was Los Angeles. I went to a lot of cafes and coffee shops. We interviewed like over 130 interviews, and just been all over. And they're like, each city has its own unique scene, and the coffees there are great. I mean, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, but for me, it's close to home. Like, it's the local shops that I love, and like through the 5 years, there's been a lot of development in just specialty coffee all over LA, and that's a great thing. And so I think for me, it's like.
For me, it was, I think I liked Florence a lot, or Trieste also, because there was this, I mean, everything had a historic feel to it, and everything was always crowded, and the culture of just consuming those espressos made it more like a localized feel. Because personally, I'm from India, so for me, I feel Los Angeles is a combination of many cities in one big city. So, like, when you go to Manhattan, you feel like you are in one giant city. Like, this is New York, the other parts don't matter, really. That's how the mind starts thinking. And for me, it was, I think, I would say Italian cities had a very, specific design to them or culture to them, for me.
I kind of asked the other two filmmakers too if there's been inspirations for city for them.
Sure. Yeah, so we're going to extend the question to the other filmmakers.
Yeah, for me, my family's from Nicaragua, so I kind of grew up running through those farms and like playing on them every summer that I got sent back home. But coffee consumed back in Nicaragua was way different than it is here. They really, like you guys saw, they butcher it. It's like the bunk coffee that got left over, and all the premium stuff heads out here. And so when I've actually taken specialty grade coffee roasted here back home, it like blows people's minds away. Even though it's such a staple, it's like literally coffee's in our blood out there, we haven't tapped into kind of like the high end of it. But I guess to summarize the question, it's just kind of that background, that humility, that connection to the earth is where my perspective with coffee comes from. It comes from the farmer side of things, not the cafe side of things. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think my story is as amazing. Just, where I come from, the coffee culture really didn't hit until the 90s, and I was privileged to have, parents and people in my life that actually were into coffee before it was cool, and so it was something that I experienced first at home. And then there weren't really any cafes, and so what was interesting is when I traveled the world, and I went to Italy and saw the espresso bars, and I went to France and sat in the coffee shops, I always really just wanted to be able to bring that experience back to the people of the Midwest. And then I got the opportunity to work at the coffee shop I currently own, and it really revolutionized and changed our area. And then being able to join the World Barista competitions and to be able to go into that market and then to bring that level of expertise to the Midwest, we really were the thing that kind of changed our area. And so it sounds self-centered, but my coffee shop's the thing that still inspires me to this day.
I think we should actually, does anyone, I want to take it out to the audience because I know that we haven't done that. And so I want to ask if there's anybody who has any questions out there. Are you good? Yeah?
Sure, let me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're the runner. Hurry, you're the mic.
How did you, Vishal and Han, how did the theme of your story change for you guys as you guys started to develop it and then expand it to the world? And what was really the message that you started with and you thought you wanted to start with versus at the very end? How did that evolve?
I think the message is essentially the same from the beginning, but to be able to craft that message and tell that story through so many interviews and so many stories, that was the most difficult part for us. What do you think, Bishop?
You know, I think the way documentary as a format works is that every time you shoot something, your outline is changing, either consciously or subconsciously. And as she said, we went with a specific mindset and we stuck with it. But within that, we found so many shades which we did not know existed. For example, we did not even know that we were going to go to Nicaragua and find this women's story to end the film. You know, we had no humanitarian angle in the first outline. So at a certain point, you know, it was that let coffee be the hero and move the story ahead, and show the journey from bean to cup. Whereas initially we were, you know, the first cuts looked very different. Like I'm talking like maybe 20 cuts ago, it was a different movie altogether. So it's in the end, it's what kind of resonates to you as to like as directors that this I think is a story worth telling. This I think is a story worth telling. And the end result is a culmination of all those stories, because this movie, as you see, as she mentioned, it's not one man's journey or 2 or 3 guys' journey. It's so many people involved, and coffee is just moving it ahead. So the overall thing was that we want to show how coffee is brewed from bean to cup and end it with a note of sustainability and leave the viewer with a question of figuring out where his coffee comes from and how he can play a more active role in his coffee culture and in his food culture in general. So that's the note we wanted to end the movie with.
Very cool. Is there anyone else? I think we probably have time for one more or 2 more. You have a question. Okay, great.
In the editing process, there's always things that end up on the cutting room floor. What things would you have liked to have put in the film that maybe didn't make it, or what things still stick out that you wished you could have found to put in there that we didn't see?
I personally like the 80-minute mark. So for me, it's like I'm very lethal with the final result. Like we could have gone to 85 minutes or 90 minutes because we had hours and hours of good stories and footage. But I mean, you know, we are in a Snapchat generation, YouTube generation where people take like 3 restroom breaks in a movie and they check the Facebook or whatever. So for within 80 minutes, if you can do a decent job in today's time, that's how cinema is going, I feel. there is absolutely no regret of any footage which we've left behind, because we did so many cuts. We we came to a point of satisfaction with anything. If we would have made one cut literally like the day before sending it to Santa Barbara Film Festival, we would have regretted, oh, maybe is this right, is this wrong? But we went through so many screenings where we got an audience and got a poll on things like, what do you agree with, what do you disagree with? So it had a purification process, and then this is what is left over, So now we know that, okay, this is how we want it to be.
I noticed that you guys were in Jinotega, and I know that area very well, and actually know Doña Fatima, who runs Sopexca. You guys got a glimpse of, again, kind of both sides, right? From the consumer side, the roaster side, the cafe side, and you got the very humble farmers. With this kind of change in understanding and consciousness and culture, where do you think, what is next? Or what would be the next film, that was going to tag along to what you guys did, let's say 5-10 years from now? Where will those farmers be in position to the consumer? I don't know if that makes sense.
I think with Nicaragua, because it's a smaller country, I think it's good for them that they are small, and whatever coffee they are growing, there are just 2 or 3 really important regions in Nicaragua which grow coffee. Matagalpa or whatever the other ones, Esteli is the largest one, I think. And so to me, it's more like what that farm is doing with their buyer. So you could be with a lousy buyer who's going to quit on you or something, and or you could have adverse effects from climate. Like say it rains like crazy 2 years from now, or leaf frost or this, who's saving you that time? So for me, it's that's what I think of it is, it all depends on where they are already connected, which farms they are supplying to, and 5 years from now, what are those coffee shops aspiring to become? Because it's like you're on the same boat, and the same waters are going to carry both of y'all. So if everything's good, you succeed together, and if not, you fail. But the level of failure can still be helped out by people in America and Europe, and they have some leverage as to, okay, this year consumption is poorer than last year, let's help them out and see how we can facilitate fertilizer or funding or whatever. So, 5 to 10 years from now, I think for Nicaragua, obviously, there's going to be an improvement, but still, I think it's the bigger countries which have so many options of commercial grade coffees or just every gamut of coffee they produce, and those are the ones to me which fascinate me, in the sense it's a dicey situation as to who may try to do specialty, who may not try to do, So it all depends, and I think a lot of it will go on how consumers are going to change consuming coffee. That dictates so many things. Like if more people start consuming specialty, we are in a different position by then. And if we go towards commercial grade coffees, then the scenario changes again. So for me, for Nicaragua, from what we've seen, I think they have a bright future, because they do what they can handle and they do it well, and they're slow and organic. They are not, it's not like a commercial ground, like low altitude ground in Brazil where get the machines and start, So with Nicaragua specifically, I feel that country has a good future, and so many bad things have happened in the history of Nicaragua that the culture has learned what not to do, at least. And that's a big thing, because many countries don't know that yet. They're still fighting over the small things, but I feel Nicaragua has surpassed all that, and they're looking towards development right now.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that, I'm always inspired by people who create stuff anyways. But one of my favorite things about coffee is really the human connection, and really the individual stories, and how there are connections within connections, and sort of the deeper you go. And I have a really quick funny story, because as part of World Coffee events, I was anticipating seeing a lot of familiar faces on the screen. Like a lot of our submissions, you know, I know a lot of these people, you see familiar faces and you go, oh, there's Peter Giuliano, or oh, there's Soren, Stiller Murkison, and there's all these people, and it's such a warm feeling when you see people that you know and have connections with talking about coffee. But I had a very singular moment with screening our films, because I had a moment where I recognized someone on the screen who was not attached to coffee at all. And I remembered months before, so my friend Zach Titus, who is like a professional snowboarder and an actor, calls me up, because no one understands what I do when I try to explain it to him, and he was like, oh, this coffee stuff is so intense, like, did you know there's scales involved, and did you know there's like different grinds, and like, oh my God, like, and he has an espresso at home, and I was like, why are you asking me? It's like, I booked this job, and I just totally forgot about it, and I finally asked him, I'm like, do you want a clever? Because I have a clever. He was like, oh yeah, give me a clever. Like, I'm really excited about this. And then, so the guy in the Dawn of the Beans, he's, that was my friend, and so there's a cool, like, a moment of connection where I was like, and I thought, oh, that's right. Now he gets it. So, I mean, you've made a convert. But it was a really warm moment for me, and it really just sort of pointed out how coffee truly is a connector, and how once you've experienced really good coffee and you start to sort of peel back the layers, what a wonderful thing that is. And so I think you want to say something before we go?
Talking of that connection, I ended up shooting a feature film last year in which he played an FBI agent.
What?
So as soon as I saw him, he played an undercover FBI agent.
I was there for the birth of his children.
Yeah, and he was clean shaven in that one. But I remember shooting him in a warehouse for like 2 or 3 days. We met 3-4 times, and so that was a surprise when I saw him in that this thing. So it is a small world.
That's
I was going to say, the world just got even smaller.
That's right, and if you need to hire an actor, we've got Zach Titus' number. You're the only one who hasn't used him yet. All right, thank you so much. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back for barista.
What time, great Amy, what time for barista?
You know, I need to check on how it's doing upstairs, and then I'll be able to tell you.